for every NFL game. The dynamic duo of Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn. Great to see you guys. We have a shortened time window because some excellent Champions League matchups on CBS All Access. You can get coverage of them after us. Make sure to tune in. Chelsea rolling up 2-0 at the half right now. Sevilla looking to come back. Juve had a bunch of shots and still only up 1-0. Could be a total blowout. Check out the coverage. Watch on CBS All Access. And that's what Brady will be doing this afternoon. Green Bay may be playing on Thursday Night Football in San Francisco, but there's COVID situations with both of those teams. Green Bay, a 5.5-point favorite. Pete, heading to San Francisco. If the game is played on Thursday, who do you like?
I think San Francisco is just decimated. I mean, you take away the quarterback, but also they want to run the ball. And George Kittle's not there, and he's one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. That's going to be a problem for him as well. Their running back situation is a mess. They don't have the receivers. Now, Bourne is out with COVID. I mean, it's a disaster on defense as well. Green Bay is terrible on defense right now. They can't stop the run. That's usually a problem against the 49ers, but not here. I think they go in. The Packers, even if their running back situation is a little bit of a mess, if Aaron Jones can't go, I think this is an Aaron Rodgers game. He lights them up. I'll take the Packers minus the points.
You guys know what this game is? It's a Jimmy Garoppolo appreciation game, right? Do you remember going back to last season when the San Francisco 49ers took on the Packers, who were a good football team, 13-3 in the regular season, made it to the NFC Championship game? Both times just absolutely beat them down. And I get it. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't play the biggest role, especially in the NFC Championship game, but it's going to allow people to remember that he is a good quarterback when healthy. Unfortunately, he just had a hard time staying healthy. Pete touched on the rest of the injuries. That's going to be a problem. That's going to be an issue. I do think Aaron Rodgers will kind of have his way in the passing game versus the San Francisco 49ers defense. I don't foresee the 49ers being able to run the football as effectively as we saw last year in those two matchups, which, look, let's be honest, this is a shame. I think before the season started, this was one of those games that you circled on the calendar. You really wanted to see, and use as a measuring stick for where Green Bay is in comparison to one of the best teams in San Francisco in the NFC and where they would be at that point in time. But unfortunately, because of how this year has gone, whether it's the injuries or COVID or whatever you want to attribute it to, the bottom line is San Francisco is headed one direction. Green Bay is headed the other direction. I like Green Bay in this one, and I like them big.
I'm going to take the 49ers. I realize that's probably not a popular pick, but I also think that the total in this game is just grossly inflated. It's at 50, and I don't think that these two teams are getting to 50. My biggest concern with the even Jimmy Garoppolo being out, it's George Kittle being out. I think George Kittle is the Jenga piece for that offense, and I would be worried about how it affects their run game. But I don't think Green Bay is going to get the run game going either because they're missing a ton of players at that position. I will take the 49ers to cover this one fairly in a close game. They were really good against them last year, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Seattle at Buffalo. Seahawks minus 2.5 in what could be a shootout, maybe even a Super Bowl preview. Could that be possible, Pete? Your boy Josh Allen against Seattle minus 2.5, a whopping 55-point total in this game.
No, it's not. That's not going to be a Super Bowl preview. There's too many good teams right now in the AFC, including the Chiefs and the Steelers. And I don't think the Seahawks are good enough on defense. But neither team is good enough on defense. This is going to be fun. That total's high for a reason. The Bills haven't been great on offense in the last couple games, and they got to get that thing cranked up. But what's a perfect tonic to fix your offense? The Seattle defense. I know they played a little bit better last week, but I think there's going to be opportunities for them to throw the football around here. High-scoring game. But Russell Wilson is the MVP right now. And he will continue to have big games and put up big numbers. I will take Seattle and lay the points.
Man, I'm on the opposite side of this one. I see this completely different than Pete does. Yeah, the Seattle defense has struggled this year. They really can't get much worse. And that's why I think it's actually going to be this game moving forward now where we see the Seattle Seahawks defense start to improve. Whether it's in pass coverage, the run defense has never really been that bad in the first place. It was just how bad their pass coverage was. But I do think that's going to improve. They do have the addition now of Carlos Dunlap. I know Pete's a big fan of that, even though he doesn't want to give their defense much credit. But bottom line is this is where they start to get that group together for the second half of the season as they start to march on and try to make a playoff/Super Bowl run. And on the flip side of this one, I think Buffalo will keep this game close. I'm actually going to take the points on Buffalo on this one. I do think Seattle wins it, but the fact that we really don't know what the weather is going to be like, we know how that could play a factor at this point in time in the season, really for both teams. Even as prolific as Seattle's been in the passing game, you'd be concerned if they have to face a tough wind, especially in that stadium. I haven't played in it before. It could be swirling. It could be tough to go up against. So I like a low-scoring game. I think Buffalo ends up covering the number, but I think Seattle wins a close one on the road.
Man, I'm on the opposite side of you, Brady. And if you look at the forecast, and obviously it can change, forecasts can be fickle. It's hard to predict things in 2020, particularly the weather. If you're picking things that you might want to predict. And the weather changes very frequently, right? But right now, it is looking like 65 and sunny, no wind at all in Buffalo. Perfect table jumping weather, like just ripping fireball shots and flying through tables, and then watching. I guess I'll be watching from watching from the parking lot. Watching Russ Wilson and Josh Allen trade bombs down the field. This is a shootout game. Has shootout written all over it. Neither of these defenses can play. DK Metcalf establishing himself as maybe the best wide receiver in football, or at least the best young wide receiver in football. I think a lot of points get scored here, and I think Seattle covers in the end. If you listen to the Pick Six Podcast YouTube exclusive on Sunday night with me and John Breach, we told you to take this over at 51. It's all the way up to 55 now, so we got you 4 free points there. Baltimore at Indianapolis, a matchup of two AFC heavyweights. The Ravens are actually favored on the road in Indianapolis. Ravens minus 2.5, over under 47, Pete.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in the Ravens passing game in a big way. I thought Lamar Jackson would be much better this year. I thought Marquise Brown, who's complaining about the passing game, would be much better this year. And even Mark Andrews hasn't done as much. I think this is an opportunity to get it going, though. I know the Colts are better on defense. They've played much improved on that side of the ball because of a lot of young players growing up. But I think this is a spot where the passing game gets going for the Ravens. And on the other side, look, people buried Phillip Rivers. Me and you, Will, we defend him all the time. And he's played well the last couple weeks. I just think this is a tough matchup for him with the way they come after the quarterback. He doesn't move that well. I will take the Ravens minus the points with Lamar Jackson finally getting the passing game cranked up.
You know, this is weird because some of our pre-show notes would indicate otherwise, Pete, but I guess I'm going to say I agree with you, even though I put this pick in before you did. All that being said, look, as good as the Colts defense has been, I do think they're going to struggle versus the rushing attack of the Baltimore Ravens. You can only go back a week ago and look at the tough loss of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If they don't turn the football over the way they did, they win that football game, and Pittsburgh's not the only undefeated team in the NFL right now. So I think they'll get the running game going. As for the passing game, yeah, that'll be part of it too, but I don't think it's just going to be one quick fix or this is the game to necessarily do it or the defense to do it against. On the flip side, I am concerned about the Baltimore Ravens getting pressure on Phillip Rivers, forcing him to get the football out and potentially making some poor decisions, turning over the football in this one. So I'll gladly lay the 2.5 points, even though Baltimore's on the road.
I think the wrong team is favored here. I think the Colts should be favored at home. This is a disrespectful move to Indianapolis. And look, Matt Eberflus loves to play that zone-style defense. They're going to sit back and let Darius Leonard do his thing. They're going to force Lamar Jackson to throw. They'll be better against the run than Pittsburgh was, I believe, because of their players in that front seven. They'll be able to slow down the Ravens' rushing attack. J.K. Dobbins had a nice breakout game. I think the Colts defense shows up in a big way here, and Phillip Rivers answers the bell, and the Colts win this game outright and sort of establish a little hierarchy in the AFC. I'm tempted to take the under at 47, but I'm just tired of losing unders in 2020. Just don't take unders. The unders don't ever win unless there's like crazy wind. Chicago at Tennessee. The Bears are 5.5-point dogs against the Titans. Speaking of crazy over-unders, 46.5 in this spot, Pete.
Look, it's the bad offense in Nick Foles and the Bears offense against the terrible defense in the Tennessee Titans. Something has to give. And I think in this situation, when you have a team who can't rush the passer at all, they can't even sniff the quarterback, That's good news for a streaky Nick Foles. I think he's going to throw the ball well in this game. I think he's going to hit some shots down the field. On the other side of the ball, it's going to be a little tougher sledding for the Titans, but they'll eventually get it going. I think this is a tight game. I think Tennessee wins it, but barely, and it wouldn't shock me to see Chicago win the game outright.
Well, that's been kind of the story of Chicago's season, right? When they're not winning, usually some of their games are relatively close. And I do think they have the defense to be able to do it, especially the way they played situationally this year, third down, red zone. They've been incredible. On the flip side of this game, you cannot say that for the Tennessee Titans. They're the worst third down defense. They've been terrible in the red zone this year. Their pass coverage has been bad. So, yes, this is the defense to be able to get your mojo going again. Jadeveon Clowney, 0 sacks. Vic Beasley, their other big offseason addition, no longer with the team, didn't have a sack anyway. So we'll see what the addition of Desmond King will bring to the secondary. Maybe it can help out the Tennessee Titans with some of their coverage there on the back end. But all that being said, I still like the Tennessee Titans to take care of business here at home. I just have a hard time believing that the Chicago Bears offense is going to be able to drum up enough production, even with what I would believe to be mismatches on the outside with Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, and Darnell Mooney. At the end of the day, I still think the Titans are going to be able to cover that number of 5.5 points.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing, is that the Bears have played in every single one of their games has been a one-score game except for one. They just play in close games. They're a middling offense, as Pete said, with a pretty good defense. It's not an elite defense, but it's pretty good. The Titans will try and smash Derrick Henry into that defensive line. I think it'll work fairly well, but I don't think it'll really matter. I mean, these teams, Chicago's just going to be able to answer. Tennessee can't stop anybody. And I think Darnell Mooney is a guy that can really have a big game. They've been taking some deep shots to him every week. He has had a ton of air yards over the last couple of weeks. So I think maybe you could see him sort of pop up and catch a couple deep passes. He had one nice long pass last week as well. I'll take the Bears and the points. Some big news surrounding a quarterback in the NFC North. We will tell you why the Lions might be in trouble on Sunday, coming up after the break. Welcome back to the Pick Six Podcast Show here on CBS Sports HQ. Will Brinson joined by Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn. Break down every game against the spread. But we have some breaking news in the Detroit and Minnesota game. The line was originally Minnesota -4 with a total of 52.5. It is now off the board because Matthew Stafford has been placed on the reserve COVID list. The Lions declined to say what reason, whether it was a close contact or a positive test, but he is on the list, and presumably you have to operate under the assumption, Pete, that we could see a backup quarterback situation here until further notice, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would plan on him not being there. I mean, even close contact is, 5 days, and that puts him into Sunday. So I think he's probably not going to play in this game. That means Chase Daniel will be the starting quarterback. You excited about that? Look, I love this spot for the Vikings, even if Matt Stafford had played. I think the Vikings showed me something last week. The offensive line really opened some holes, and Green Bay's bad against the run, but they look good. Dalvin Cook ran the ball. They took the pressure off the quarterback who can't handle it, and they played better defense. So I'm going to take the Vikings minus the points, even if Stafford had played. Now I'm sure that number might go up a little bit, but I'll still lay the points whether he's there or not, so I'll take the Vikings.
If Stafford is playing, I like the Lions in this one. I'll go ahead and take the points. I am also a little bit concerned, though, if Kenny Golladay doesn't play. I mean, just from breaking this team down and looking at their offense, if Galladay's not able to go, it changes the dynamic of their passing game big time. And they're not consistently good enough running the football, in my opinion, to be able to put up with the type of production I think the Minnesota Vikings show when Dalvin Cook's a part of their lineup. So you take Stafford out of the equation and Kenny Golladay, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and flip to the other side of this one and lay the points with Minnesota. I had a chance to speak with Dalvin Cook earlier today, and you just get a sense that this team truly does believe they can go on a run the rest of the season and put themselves back into contention for a wild card spot in that NFC playoff picture. Clearly, he's a big part of that. He realizes that, but it also opens up so many other things, too, in the passing game to get them going. I think that's what you're going to see in this week's game. It's going to be a heavy dose of Dalvin Cook, both running and catching the football, but also some of the other complementary pieces as well. So I'll go ahead and take the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Vikings as well, and I like hearing that, Brady, because you've sometimes seen with Minnesota where Dalvin Cook will have a heavy workload game and they'll ease back on him maybe a little bit the following week. But I think you're 100% right. Minnesota has to look at their schedule and realize what's on the table here. They have the Lions this week and then the Bears after that. I think Mike Zimmer is going to want to lean on Dalvin Cook to win these 2 divisional games and get themselves at least back in the hunt. Maybe if the Packers can stumble a little bit. Of course, Chicago ahead of them as well. After that, I mean, Dalvin Cook is about to eat. Cowboys, Panthers, Jaguars. Those are some of the 3, maybe the worst run defenses. You got to maybe include Houston in there as well in the NFL. And I think they might just toss 30 carries a game on them for the next 5 weeks and say, listen, we paid you. Here's start eating until Thanksgiving, pal, and see if they can't win some games with Dalvin Cook running the ball. I think they'll be able to do it this week. I will also take the Vikings. Let's see what the point spread comes back on once we get a ruling on Matthew Stafford. The Carolina Panthers are headed to Kansas City to play the nuclear Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, Pete pointed out he's sick and tired of having to watch his team run the ball, so they quit running against the Jets, and they threw it all over the place. 5 passing touchdowns. Can he replicate it as a 10.5-point favorite against the Panthers, Pete?
Yes, he can. I think this is one of those games. Now, I'm a little concerned because you didn't play a good team last week. You're not playing a good team this week. Are you going to be as focused? But I think they will be. I think Mahomes got it cranked up. He looked like the old Mahomes. They allowed him to throw the ball around the yard a little bit. And I think he'll do that here. I'm not a big believer in the Carolina defense just yet. They played better than I thought they would, but there's still a lot of young kids on that defense. And on the other side, Teddy Bridgewater has kind of leveled off a little bit, so I don't think he's going to get in a shooting match with, a shootout with him. I think you're going to see Mahomes have a big day. The Panthers won't be able to keep up. I'll lay the points. I don't like it, though, because that number looks fishy to me. I thought it would be about 12 or 13, to be honest with you.
I mean, geez, it's still double digits. And it's not like the Carolina Panthers are that bad of a football team, Pete. I'm right there with you, though. I'm laying the points in this one. I don't know how big of a day Patrick Mahomes has. I mean, remember, Matt Rule came from the college ranks. Trust me, he's seen these sorts of offenses. He kind of knows how to slow down a guy like Patrick Mahomes. He's very aware from spending some time in the Big 12 and knowing how to stop these sort of explosive systems. So I actually think this could be a little bit of a low-scoring game because of how Carolina's going to slow play things, both defensively, playing a bunch of bend but don't break defense, and then offensively, trying to control the game by running the football. Teddy Bridgewater not making many mistakes. I do agree with this. You said Teddy Bridgewater's leveled off. I think this team's kind of leveled off. And I'm sure, Will Afterby is going to take, the Carolina Panthers because he's a homer, right? That's where he resides. That's the only reason why he would take them in this case. But the reality of this is this team is not going to play a lot of great football the rest of the season. I'd be shocked if they get past 5 wins. They're definitely not winning this one. And I don't think they really keep this one competitive for very long. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the points. I see KC scoring a decent amount. Carolina, not so much.
I got my blue on, Carolina blue, right? Look, the Panthers have certainly – I think the Panthers haven't leveled off. I think the Panthers just regressed to sort of expectations. I think you've seen Carolina kind of get to where they want – like, this is just the team they're going to be. They have a pretty good offense. Their defense isn't that great. I think this is going to be you know what this is going to be? This is going to be after I lost my friggin' lungs on Le'Veon Bell props last week. This is going to be the Le'Veon Bell game. Watch. Andy Reid will taunt me by rolling out Le'Veon Bell, running him a bunch. Clyde Edwards-Helaire will eat as well. And I think that they will run a lot on the Carolina defense. They will run easily. I expect, however, Carolina to come through the back door because the Chiefs' defense, while good, not necessarily great. And Carolina can sling it around a little bit. I don't think they'll cover I don't think they'll win, but I think they'll cover the 10.5, a little backdoor cover. New York, the Giants at the Washington football team. Washington favored for the second time this season. Is that right? A 3-point favorite against New York. The total here, 41.5, should be a scorcher. A great game to watch on Sunday, Pete.
The game hasn't even started yet, and Daniel Jones has turned it over twice already. I mean, my God. Hold on to the damn football. Hold on to the football. Don't lock on the outside. If you're going to get sacked, take the sack. I mean, my gosh. Look, you know me. I'm a Daniel Jones defender. I thought he would be good. Right now, he's not very good. And I think that's a problem when you play that Washington front. The Washington football team has a damn good defense that can attack the quarterback from the front. Those guys are good. Jack Del Rio knows how to use them. This is a bad spot for the Giants on a short week, and I think Washington will find a way to win this game. I'll take Washington minus the points.
I'm with you, Pete. I'm taking Washington. I'm going to go ahead and lay the points, too. Remember, 2 weeks to prepare, too, for the Washington football team. So they should be well rested. They should be well prepared for this matchup. And you already mentioned the New York Giants coming off in the short week. Yeah, they've got some issues, too, offensively, turning over the football. I'm not even sure this front for Washington will be giving Daniel Jones enough time to turn over the football unless it's going to be a strip sack of sorts. On the flip side, I do think Washington's starting to settle into what Kyle Allen is as a quarterback and his identity within this system. They're probably going to try to hammer raid running the football, take their shots to Terry McLaurin, working Logan Thomas at times. But that's going to be the game plan on offense. Don't mess it up on defense. Put them in short fields, put them in positions to be able to win this game. So I'll go ahead and lay the 3 points in this divisional matchup. I don't necessarily feel great about it because I do believe the Giants, look, they've been close the last few weeks. They have been right there. One of these times they're actually going to not turn the football over and win it. I just don't see it being this week.
Yeah, look, I think the Giants defense is playing better than people think, and that gives me pause here with Washington as a favorite because why should Washington be favored? But the matchup with the Washington defensive line and the pressure they can generate against Daniel Jones, as Pete pointed out, he's not even going to have time. He's just going to explode and turn into a turnover magically. He can't hold on to the ball. He makes terrible decisions. Some of those interceptions on Monday night just unacceptable in those spots. And I think he will create some turnovers here, and the Washington football team will win. Houston at Jacksonville. This is pretty phenomenal because it's not often, Pete, that you see a team that is 1-6 laying 7 points on the road in an NFL game. But here we are. Welcome to 2020.
Well, here's what you have to ask yourself. The Jacksonville Jaguars have allowed 30 points in every game. Are they going to do it again? And the answer to that question is yes. They're terrible on defense. So you look at the other side. Can Jake Luton start in his first game? How many reps has he had with the first team? Almost none. And here he is going into a situation where he's going to have to play catch up. I think the kid's got some talent. He's a big, strong kid with a big arm. And they thought he looked really good this summer in camp. But he's not going to be able to keep up. His defense is terrible. I'll take, as bad as the Texans have been, I'll lay the points. That number looks fishy to me as well, but I will lay it. I'll take the Texans minus the points.
It does seem like a lot when you look at the win-loss record of the Texans. And then you factor into all the rumors around Will Fuller, one of their best offensive players, potentially being shopped or traded. Like, how's that going to play an impact as far as his headspace in this game? But a little more into Jake Luton, the quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Prototypical pocket passer. He doesn't have much athleticism. That's going to be an issue when this offensive line has to go up against a guy like J.J. Watt. But I do think they have enough pieces on the outside where Jake Luton's accuracy and the fact that if you go back to his time at Oregon State, he really played well in his final year there, and they ran more of a pro-style system. Like this system, this offense, it's not going to be too much for him. So I don't think the moment will be too big. I think he'll make some nice throws and make some nice plays, but the pressure eventually will get to him. And really, they got to feature James Robinson in this one if they want to have any shot whatsoever. But I'm betting on Deshaun Watson. I'm betting on the Houston Texans offense being able to put up against points against the defense that struggle to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So Watson should have a big day. He should be able to cover this number.
You know, I said I don't like to take unders in 2020, and I definitely don't like to take unders with two bad defenses. But, man, this one is kind of tempting. I mean, 51 points. I know these teams can, like, both theoretically score. But Jake Lee, to the Jaguars, if they give up 30, are they going to manage to get to 20 themselves? I don't know. You're right. They need to lean on James Robinson. The Texans are terrible against the run. If they try and get away and make this a Jake Luton game, then the Texans theoretically should run away with it. But, I mean, all of Deshaun Watson's stats the last couple of weeks have been at garbage time. So I could see this thing being like 10-7 at the half, and we're sort of staring at the Texans, like, you know, trying to poke them with a stick, wondering, what will you do something? Broncos at the Falcons. Falcons minus 3.5. Over under 50, Pete.
Yeah, and I thought Drew Lock did some really good things in the fourth quarter to win the game last week. It looked like a different guy. It looked like something finally happened. The pilot light went on. He was much more comfortable. And the Falcons under Raheem Morris have played good football. You know, they should be 3-0. They've played really good football. They're much better than they were. I just think that when you look at this, it's a long trip. Again, the Falcons are a little rejuvenated. I think Matt Ryan and Julio Jones will be able to make some plays in the passing game against the Broncos secondary. And I don't know if Locke can, have 2 big games in a row and keep up. So I'll take the Falcons minus the points. I think this is going to be pretty high scoring, by the way. I think the Falcons will get a couple long touchdown passes to Julio Jones in this one.
Yeah, this is really going to be about, to me, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and how much production they can have versus a Vic Fangio coach defense. He always draws up such a great game plan versus most opponents. I know he gave up a bunch of points last week versus the Chargers, and that's kind of how I foresee this one working out. But Pete touched on it. I mean, Drew Lock, really a coming-of-age moment with the comeback. He did have some help, though. Bryce Callahan with a couple of nice plays. Had some help from Hamler, too, making some clutch catches. So the bottom line is it was a total team win to be able to come back from that sort of deficit and score 21 points in the fourth quarter. So a right step in the right direction. I don't think they followed up this week, though. I think that Atlanta offense gives them too much. My only concern is, Takk McKinley, another guy who they kind of expected a lot out of the season. His entire career there hasn't worked out. He's obviously unhappy with the fact that he didn't get traded. He's voiced that publicly. You wonder then, taking a guy off the field, or if there's any sort of punishment or any impact whatsoever, what that would mean for this defense at this point. I'm not really sure where that's going to go. But again, I do think Atlanta is going to score enough points in this one to be able to cover the 3.5. I hate the hook. I'd probably buy it down if it was me. But Will, I'm sure you're going to take the Denver Broncos. That's just so appropriate for you to do, is kind of fade both Pete and I.
Hey, Will, by the way, I don't know if they're going to be able to handle losing that one sack that Takk McKinley has this year. I mean, my God. One sack. He does nothing.
Who's coming in behind him? Hey, Pete, who's coming in behind him? It's like a drop-off worse from there, bud. That's the issue.
I know, but again, if he gets suspended for his comments, which is a possibility, then oh well.
I'll take the Broncos, but you're kind of making my point here. You're like, this defense stinks, but it does have Takk McKinley. Wait, he's going to be suspended? I don't know. Yeah, I'll take the Broncos 3.5. It's probably a sucker game. With Pete likes to say, I'll take the hook. Look, Drew Lock can pass on this defense. The Falcons looked okay against the Carolina Panthers last Thursday. I just don't think it's a good defense. And I think the Broncos will be able to score enough to squeak in and cover in the back door if they have to. But I do agree this is a good spot for Matt Ryan and Julio Jones to sort of light things up. I will take the Broncos against the spread. It's a very me thing to do, apparently. Let's take a break. When we come back, who wins between the recently relocated Raiders and Chargers? We'll tell you after the break. Welcome back to the Pick 6 podcast show here on CBS Sports HQ. We're making picks against the spread for every single NFL game in Week 9 of the 2020 season. Will Brinson, Pete Prisco, and Brady Quinn. Pete, Las Vegas heading to L.A. 2 relocated teams in recent years. Varying degrees of success. The Chargers coming off a heart rip of an L against the Broncos. And the Raiders, nice little win in the conditions in Cleveland. The Chargers are favored by 1 here. The over-under 53. What do you think?
Well, the Raiders looked good on defense last week against Cleveland, but they're not going to look good in defense in this one. I think Justin Herbert is special, and I think he's showing that to everybody who tries to slow him down and defend him. And I think he's going to put up a big number. Remember, the Raiders playing back-to-back road games, always tough. Even with no fans, it's still a challenge. I don't think they're that good on defense, and they showed better last week against Cleveland, but this is a different offense, more explosive, I think, in the passing game. And that will show up. And I just don't know if Derek Carr will go on the road and win again. So I'm going to take the Chargers minus the point.
Well, the Raiders defense is going to have that autumn win that followed them to Cleveland and helped them win that game with that defensive performance. I think this is one where just Herbert's going to be able to go off. He's put up a bunch of yards of production all year. He'll be able to score at will versus this defense. They have a hard time getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So I'm looking for Herbert to have a big day. I actually also think they'll be able to run the football somewhat effectively. It's more about the other side. I do see a scenario where Las Vegas could keep this thing close. We continually undermine what Derek Carr has done at the quarterback spot. 14 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He's improved on his completion percentage from what it was a year ago. Like, he's done everything John Gruden, this organization, has asked of him in his second year in the system. We know they can control the line of scrimmage. That offensive line is beastly, especially with Josh Jacobs running the football. So this thing's definitely going to be close. I'm getting a slight edge basically to the Chargers only because they've been in a number of close games. They can't lose them all. I do give them a slight, I guess, home field advantage due to the back-to-back road games because Pete just continually beats me on the head about that. So I guess I'm going to go with Pete on this one. And per the usual, Will, I'm sure you'll fade both of us again.
Yeah, the only reason I'm picking the Raiders is because you two guys picked the Chargers. That's exactly why. I'm just going opposite of whatever you guys do. That feels like it's working lately. So I will take the Raiders. It didn't work last week. I'll take the Raiders here. I don't think the Chargers know how to win. This is a team that knows how to lose. They've blown four consecutive 16-point leads. They won one of those games somehow because it's against the friggin' Jaguars. Look at they led by 10, 17, 17, 16, and 21. This is a team that can't close. Anthony Lynn is a human turtle. When he gets a lead, he likes to get in his shell, and they try to cough up points. The Raiders will figure out a way to come back if they get down. I don't think that's going to happen in the first place. I think they're going to pound the ball with Josh Jacobs, run the ball effectively. Good chance that we don't have any Joey Bosa here. This Chargers defense is nothing special. I think Justin Herbert will have a nice game. I think it'll be a shootout. But I'll take the Raiders to pull off the upset. This is a Raiders team that's going to the playoffs. Pittsburgh at Dallas. Cooper, I don't know how many times the quarterback's been called up for the practice squad to start a game like this for the Cowboys, but Cooper Rush is doing it. The Cowboys decided to bring him up and do the nice thing and let him play against Pittsburgh's defensive line. Pittsburgh is a 14-point favorite in Dallas, a total of 41.5, Pete.
I'm just upset that the DiNucci era is over already. Come on, give me more DiNucci. I need more DiNucci. He was awful, but what the heck do you expect in that offense? My gosh, they have nothing. The offensive line isn't any good. The wide receivers are good, but you can't get to the football when you're on your back. Elliott looks like a shell of himself. It's a bad team right now. It doesn't matter who plays quarterback, particularly against that Pittsburgh defense. Now, the Steelers are playing 3 straight road games, 3 in a row. And normally that would be tough on a team, but not here. This Cowboys team is awful. Take the Steelers and lay the points.
Pete, I did notice in our pre-show notes, you do have Pittsburgh winning 34-20, right?
I guess, yeah.
I mean, isn't that a push? Is that really how you foresee this game going? Where you're telling people to lay the
spread went up. The spread went up. When I made that pick, the spread went up. So I'll adjust it to the score.
Still reading newspapers. That's where he gets his lines from. Look, Pittsburgh's going to win this in a big way. I'm not sure that Dallas gets more than, I don't know, a field goal on the board, maybe a couple field goals. That would have to come probably Pittsburgh making some mistakes, whether it's Cooper Rush or Garrett Gilbert. I mean, at one point, I think I heard they were going to have a quarterback competition during the week. Great. We're going to split reps, so neither guy will be fully prepared for one of the top defenses and the only undefeated team in the NFL. That makes a lot of sense, too. So, look, who knows at this point? I am sad that the DiNucci era ended and that Pete's Paisan no longer gets to carry the flag or the banner there for the Dallas Cowboys. But this doesn't need really much analysis. I mean, Pittsburgh's going to win this handily.
Yeah, I will say that I think there's some sharp people who might be on Dallas this week, but I can't do it. I don't want to go against you guys that badly either. I mean, this is an absolute mismatch. The Cowboys are I don't think people understand. The Cowboys might be worse than the Jets, and I know the record doesn't say it. But the way that they're playing right now with all the guys that they have injured, with the offensive line issues they have, they might really be worse than the Jets. If the Jets and the Cowboys played a game and the Cowboys were favored, that's the only situation where I would take the Jets. The Cowboys' offensive line is terrible, and Pittsburgh gets a ton of pressure. The one thing that concerns me is that while Mike Tomlin is an incredible coach, probably working his way to the Hall of Fame, every year under him, they have this one game, they go on the road, they're like 8, 9, 10-point favorites, and they just lay the weirdest egg. And I just don't think it's going to be this week because Dallas is that bad. Miami at Arizona. The Tua era off to a roaring start, Pete. He blasted the Rams, an incredible swashbuckling performance by maybe the best rookie quarterback in the league this year. Tua took down the mighty Los Angeles Rams, and now he gets a chance to take down the Cardinals. Arizona -5, over under 48.
See, everybody's talking about Tua, but the thing to talk about in this game is the #1 offense in Arizona against the #1 scoring defense in the league in Miami. I mean, Miami Dolphins have the #1 scoring defense in the league. Think about that. Brian Flores had an outstanding scheme last week, but this is a tough challenge. You turn around and now have to go out west and play a team coming off a bye that's scoring a lot of points. I think this is a big step up in terms of what they'll have to do on the road against the Cardinals. I like Kyler Murray to have a big day. And Tua did nothing last week. He barely even threw the ball. He didn't have to. This game, he'll have to. I think he turns it over. I'll take Arizona minus the points.
Come on, Pete. He made a good throw on that blitz zero coverage. He identified that he had to get the ball out, an accurate pass to Devontae Parker for a touchdown. But you're right. That was pretty much it. Wasn't asked to do much. They led the entire way. This is the true test. You go on the road. Yes, there's not a home field advantage for Arizona, but still, the time change, the travel, the 1 week to prepare. He had 2 weeks to prepare for last week's matchup versus the Rams. That's going to be a challenge for him. And this defense is going to be challenged. You know, you look at the Cardinals, man, this team knows how to put up some points. Kyler Murray is an absolute problem when you have to decide how you want to try to rush him, how you want to try to contain him and keep him in the pocket. And not to mention, they've got probably 2 future Hall of Famers in wide receiver in Fitzgerald and Hopkins. So I think Vance Joseph's defense will present Tua with a bunch of different challenges and pressure. And I think this could be a rough go for Tua and the Dolphins. So I'm going to go with Arizona and lay the points.
Yeah, I'm with you on Arizona, too. I was just messing with Pete on Tua. Tua didn't do anything. That was the Dolphins defense that played well. But you can run on them. I think Chase Edmonds has a big game. And Kyler Murray has a nice game on the ground as well. New Orleans at Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers -5 as they host Drew Brees in the rubber match here, Pete.
Yeah, and one team's coming off the Monday nighter playing a short week. The other one is playing consecutive road games, so they kind of cancel each other out a little bit. I just think the defense in Tampa didn't play great against the Giants. It was good, but I think they're going to play great in this one. I think they're going to get all over Breeze. We know how he gets jumpy and that helmet comes up and he starts looking underneath his chin when people start hitting him in the mouth. And I think he's going to have problems in this game. I love the way the Tampa Bay defense is trending. Everybody talks about Brady and the passing game, but I think the defense steps up here. I'll take the Bucs minus the points.
This is the measuring stick for the Bucs. Remember, week 1 wasn't even close between these two teams. They've gotten a lot better, and the Saints, well, not quite as much, but they still do have Alvin Kamara. And even though Drew Brees might be looking through the chin of his chin strap, I think he'll be just fine, Pete. I think he'll be able to spread the football around, put up some points, and then your guy Taysom Hill will be the X factor in this one. So I'm going to go ahead and take the 5 points. I think New Orleans keeps this.
No, I'll take Tampa Bay. They're a much better team right now. That week 1 game was a slow out of the gate situation for Tom Brady. I think the Buccaneers roll in this one. The Saints, a little bit overrated right now. I like Tampa with their defense. We will, spoiler by the way, Pete is actually taking the Jets on Monday night. That's a bad decision. Brady and I have the Patriots. That's it for the show. Thanks for watching. Go check out Champions League coverage on CBS Sports HQ. You can catch the end of the games on CBS All Access. Some fantastic soccer going on right now. Check it out. See you guys later.